So week 2 FNCS has just concluded. This gives us once again an opportunity to dig deep into the data and find out exactly what eDPI the pros are using, and gives you an opportunity to then choose to use this eDPI for yourself to give yourself the best chance you possibly can in competition. So much like this first week, so once again we took the top 10 of what I consider to be the 4 main regions, that is Europe, NA East, NA West and OCE, and then we pumped the data into an Excel spreadsheet and once again have done all the math so you don't have to. So big reveal, the eDPI for week 2 FNCS is 57. So if you do find this information useful, please like, share and subscribe. This will help the channel and allow us to do even better analyses in the future. So I appreciate you may just want the eDPI, but stay tuned because we'll break down what that means and provide you with a little extra data. Right, so now for the most frequently used range of eDPI. It is far more spread than last week. We've got more of a range, and as you can see on screen now, the 30 to 34 range only had one. That was lowest layer, symmetrical. 35 to 39, 1. 40 to 44, 3. 45 to 49, 2. 50 to 54, 2. 55 to 59, 3. 60 to 64, 1. 65 to 69, 0. 70 to 74, 1. 75 to 79, 0. 80 to 84, 2. And then no one for the next several ranges, and just chap at 120. So again, your lowest point is symmetrical, your highest point is chap. The full range was 32 to 120. So the average ADS of 100% hit by aim was 0.55 or just over half essentially. So that is that the pro players have their aim down sight sensitivity roughly half of which their full sensitivity is. Given the 57 eDPI mark, this would mean that whilst aiming down sight, right clicking generally, this would put your sensitivity into 32 eDPI. So also what we can glean from the ADS data is there is actually quite a wide spread there. You've got some players who are just using a 1-to-1 ratio, i.e. their ADS exactly the same as their hipfire. I'm sure it probably helps for their muscle memory, equilibrium. They don't have to keep constantly just from one to the other. It may be true that having them different does actually cause neither of them to be as good as they were. However, they will be giving up some stability with their aim whilst ADSing. I'm sure they'll be a little worse potentially at tracking, mainly hitting the AR shots, because they won't be able to get the aim down to a fine stability. But they've shown that it is possible to do that with a 1-to-1 ratio. Rex, J and Aspect all using that 1-to-1 ratio, unless that was error. We used a couple of websites, mainly Pro Settings and a couple of others to get data from. It's essentially that if they don't have that data to hand, we'll put a 1-to-1 ratio rather than leaving the field blank. But it does show you that there is quite a wide spread. We have Chap with a 0.25, the lowest ADS percentage use, but that's probably because he does use a 120 eDPI, so he's going for a very high hip fire, give him a lot more mobility, building mobility, but also wanted to mitigate the damage of that with aim by having a very low ADS to try and balance that out. And it is impressive that he is able to transition from 1 to 2 without being detrimental and maybe too much of an adjustment to get used to. He seems to make it work. You have a couple of players around him like Volks and Parpy and 2 of those centers also with a very low ADS. I know that Mongrel's not in this week's dataset, but he's also one that uses around this 0.25 mark, about a quarter of his hipfire. One to monitor in the future for players. So what we can glean from that is there is an uncanny level of consistency between the eDPI used, whether we took the data from week 1 or week 2. It's not just a case of it's the same players, so it's going to be the same results. It's actually almost a completely different player base to week 2 compared to the player base week 1. We had a lot of people that performed week 1 that just fell outside of the top 10. That means that even with a completely different set of players, we've still reached pretty much the exact same conclusion around 57, 58 eDPI, which tells us that it actually isn't just a flash in the pan. This is consistent message that's coming out. It really does appear to be the sensitivity average used, which is good. It means it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next 3 weeks and whether that maintains. And at the end of the 3 weeks, we'll do an analysis across all 5 weeks of the data and come out with a full FNCS average across all 5 weeks. Please do like this video. It helps with the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe so you can be notified of future videos. That also helps the channel. The bigger the channel gets, the more in-depth analysis that we can make, and we can start to look at more amount of players from each leaderboard to just make sure the data is even better, higher sample size if you like. This week actually shows the mode actually being closer to the mean, so the mean 57 eDPI. We're seeing the mode actually that is the most frequent one this time as well, whereas last time the most frequent one was slightly lower. So this is a bit more of a consistent message, even if it's just equally as common. But we are actually seeing the 57, 58 DPI range actually coming up most commonly. We've got 3 people within that range. That is the joint highest representation. This is a much more clear and conclusive message now. There's even further data to suggest that the 57 eDPI is the sweet spot for eDPI. So based on that, let me know if you will decide to run with 58 DPI now based on these results, and leave a comment in the chat. Once again, there's a lot of consistency with the continents. So the EU eDPI average is 53. You've got the NA East at 68, NA West at 50, and OC at 50. Very similar data sets, especially the 3 of them there, but the NA East is probably pulled up by Chap's outlier 120 eDPI, which is nearly double the entire eDPI of any other player. So rather than use a different graphic, I'm going to use the same graphic we used last week for when the eDPI was 58. It is now 57, although 57.26, so it's not far off from in 58, and I think even the 58 one was rounded up mathematically, so in fact they're probably even closer than the statistics show there. But I'm just going to show the exact same comparisons of what that looks like depending on what your DPI is, just so you can get a good contextual idea of how fast that mouse sense is relative to your own. And if you ever wondered, do the pros use a balanced X and Y? At one point in time, Fortnite actually forced you by default to have an imbalance between your X and Y sense, and this has since been patched out and most people have changed it. So the question is there a benefit? Well, looking at the pro data, the X and Y sense, out of the 17 pros that we've recorded here, only 2 of them had an imbalance between X and Y sense, and then 15 players had exactly 1-to-1 ratio of X and Y sense. That probably lends better to your muscle memory and just kind of getting used to just one sensitivity. However, the 2 players do show that it obviously is possible to still adjust to multiple levels of sensitivity, i.e. different horizontal sensitivity to your vertical sensitivity. Those 2 players were Gambit 2s and Letwick. I apologize if I've murdered the pronunciation of either of those players, where you can see that both of those players chose to have a higher X sense, that's your horizontal sense, than their Y sense, with a only subtle 1 to 2 difference. May in future videos choose to analyze this a little further, see exactly what range is different, but for now, just a little brief coverage on that. Please like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this content. It takes a long time to make these videos and do the analysis, so every little helps. Every like and subscribe that you do give this video will help us to make more content like this in the future. You learn, we learn. So if you have enjoyed it, thank you very much for staying till the end of the video. Peace.